All right, 1.5, rewriting equations and formulas. All right, rewriting a literal equation. Solve the literal equation for y. Okay, we got to get this y by itself. All right, so what are you going to do? Well, let's get rid of the 4x. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to subtract it. So here it cancels on the left side then. And I get 3y is equal to negative 4x plus 9. And then I'll divide by 3. And I get y is equal to negative 4x plus 9 over 3. Now you could divide this into two separate fractions with the common denominator of 3. So I have negative 4x over 3 plus 9 over 3. So now I have y is equal to negative 4/3 x plus 3. All right, and we've isolated y. That's all you need to do. On to the next example. Solve the equation for x. Okay, what are we going to do here? All right, now notice that we can't add or subtract something to one side of the equation because both of these terms contain an x. So how do you get that x by itself? Well, we're going to have to utilize a concept called factoring. So this has 1x and this has 1x. I could pull out 1x from each of those terms. All right, that's known as factoring. So we'll pull out an x, and I'm up to 3 plus 5z. All right, now to make sense of that, if you wanted to go back to where you started, you should be able just to multiply these and get back to where you started. X times 3 is 3x. X times 5z is 5xz. Okay, so that all works. Okay, now let's get x by itself once again. So now I'm going to divide by 3 plus 5z. All right, so that cancels. And now I'm just left with x is equal to y over 3 plus 5z. And we got x by itself now. There's nothing else to simplify here. We're done. On to the next example. All right, example 3, rewriting a formula for surface area. Okay, so they give you the surface area here. This formula looks a little crazy, and I want you to solve for L. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get the terms with the L by itself. So I just need to get rid of this because that doesn't contain an L. So I'll subtract 2WH from both sides. So I get S minus 2WH is equal to 2LW plus 2LH. All right, now once again, both of these terms have that L in common. And I want to isolate the L. So I'm going to factor it out. And I have 2W plus 2H. And once again, how do you know if you're doing this right or not? Well, you could just distribute it and go back to where you started. And you know you're doing it correctly then. Okay. Now, getting the L by itself, I will divide by 2W plus 2H on both sides. Okay, these cancel out, and I have L by itself now. I have S minus 2WH all over 2W plus 2H. All right, looks a little complicated, but we followed all the correct mathematical principles, and we've isolated L. On to the next example. Okay, you own a rectangular lot that is 500 feet deep, has an area of 100,000 square feet. To pay for a new water system, you are assessed $5.50 per square foot of lot frontage. Find the frontage of your lot. Okay. So what does frontage mean? Well, in this case, it's the same thing as the width, all right, of this rectangular lot. So I know the area of a rectangle is length times width. All right, they told me the area is 100,000. So 100,000 is equal to the length, which is 500. And then I have W, which is my frontage. So I'm going to divide by 500. That cancels out. And 500 goes into 100,000 how many times? All right, 200 times. All right, that represents the width. And then it says, how much are you assessed for the new water system? Okay, well, the width is 200 feet. And it says it's $5.50 per foot. So I'm just going to multiply. All right, for every foot, I have to pay $5.50. So just multiply. And you get 1,100. In this case, dollars. All right, and that's part B. All right, that's all there is to it. On to the next example. Okay, solve the temperature formula for F. All right, here we have the temperature formula. All right, going from Celsius to Fahrenheit, or Fahrenheit to Celsius. I need to isolate this F. Okay, how do we do this? All right, just have to apply simple mathematical principles. I have this denominator here, this 9. How do you get rid of it? You multiply by 9, both sides. Cancels. So now I have 9c is equal to 5 times F minus 32. All right, how do I get rid of this 5 now? Divide by 5. So now I have 9/5 C is equal to F minus 32. And the last step, add 32. So F is equal to 9/5 C plus 32. All right, there we have it. On to the next example. Using the formula for temperature, which has the greatest surface temperature, Mercury or Venus? Okay, so here I'm going to use this formula here. They give me the temperatures in different units. One is Celsius, one is Fahrenheit. And now since I have this formula here where I could just plug in Fahrenheit and then convert it into Celsius, that's what I'll do. So I'm going to plug in the Fahrenheit temperature here because that's easier than plugging in the Celsius temperature. So I have Celsius equals 5/9, and then I have 864 minus 32. So I have 5/9 of 832, and then 9 goes into 832. How many times? When you start working with bigger numbers, you could also just use your calculator. So 5/9 of 832. That gives us 462.2. All right, so this is degrees Celsius. All right, so now I have 462.2 degrees Celsius. All right, going back to the question, which has the greatest surface temperature or greater surface temperature, Mercury or Venus? Well, that would be Venus, all right, because this one is bigger than this one. All right, so Venus is our answer. On to the next example. Using the formula for simple interest. All right, you deposit $5,000 in an account that earns simple interest. All right, this amount that you deposit, that's known as your principal. That's P. And earns simple interest. All right, that's just I. After 6 months, 6 months is your time T. The account earns $162.50 in interest. What is the annual interest rate? All right, so that's actually your I here. That's how much you've made. What is the annual interest rate? Rate is R. Okay, so we're using this formula here. All right, I is the amount of money that you made, which is $162.50. P is the principal, the initial amount that you invested, $5,000. And then R is the rate. We don't know what the rate is. That's what we want to find out. And T is the time we have it in the account. That's 6 months. Okay, so let's figure out what R is. First thing we could do is multiply these two quantities. So I have 162.50 is equal to 30,000 times R. And then I just divide by 30,000. And I isolate R. And I obtain my answer. So R is equal to 0.0054, okay? But whenever you're writing out an interest rate, you write it out as a percentage, so it would be R is equal to 0.54%. All right, because whenever you want to convert a decimal into a percentage, you have to move that decimal over twice. All right, so 0.54%. And that's all there is to it. What's going on here? Okay, there's your answer. All right, let's begin the assignment.